Okay, guys, alternate ending. Take 43.
With so many movies on the net and TV, it's kinda hard being up and film savvy. Do you catch a show while you're on the go? And how do you know what to keep or what to throw? How do you know what to keep or what to throw? Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending. Tune in, tune in, tune in to alternate ending. Now! Please give a warm welcome to the hosts of Alternate Ending.
Welcome to Alternating. We're discovering good movies, one bad movie at a time. I'm film school dropout Robert Jarsinski. Across from me is our casual moviegoer Carrie Jarsinski and our very own critic in residence Tim Braden. With Ghost in the Shell having hit streaming and rental, we're comparing and contrasting the latest installment with its animated predecessor. Tim, but first, you're back.
I am. It's good to be here. It's good to be talking at your faces and not just high five.
Face to face. I'm not going to give you a high five. No. It's a little too far, and I don't want to touch your hand.
I get that.
Yeah,
you don't want my hands in the bed. I just touched your wife, so I get that you wouldn't want cooties.
There was that sneeze earlier.
I hate to bring you back in the middle of like some marital strife, Tim, but I recently, when you left, I was a meat eater, and when you came back, I've gone the way of the vegan. I'm trying to. I'm an aspiring vegan, and this all happened in the last 2 weeks since you gone.
No,
Carrie's not too happy about it.
It didn't happen in the last 2 weeks. I left for 36 hours, and I got home, and I opened the fridge, just go grab myself a hunk of sharp cheddar, and what do I find? Latex cheese. Rob got some latex cheese, and what?
I support the vegan project in a lot of ways, but vegan cheese.
It's not supportable.
Ungodly.
No.
The cheese products are not the best. I will go on record on saying
it's
it,
not
but
cheese.
As I move to this lifestyle.
Don't even say. So again, I'm gonna so let me back it up. You led into this wrong. Literally, I left. Rob was eating a prime rib. I went to a work trip for 36 hours. I came back. There's milk made out of peas in the fridge.
That's not even the good fake milk, man.
It's not the good. It's not.
Get fucking almond milk.
Like, what has happened? Rob's like, I went to Whole Foods and I decided to become a vegan. This is
you were just standing in Whole Foods and they all the signage pressing whatever it is, health starts here. Finally,
well, as a former employee, is that right, Tim? I know that you spent some time.
I did. In fact, when I worked at Whole Foods, I had my own dalliance with veganism.
Oh my gosh.
They were encouraging all of the employees to do this month-long vegan cleanse, basically.
How did it go?
After 16 days, I was so angry and mean that so I worked at the fish counter, so I held knives, professionally cut things with knives, and to get through my workday, I fantasized about murdering the customers with the knife.
That is exactly how I feel about Rob right now.
When I realized that was what was going on, I said, fuck it, I had a hamburger, and within 5 minutes, I felt so much more centered and good about myself and my life. Yeah,
I'm going to say, I feel really angry right now, and it might come across in this podcast, just so that you know. So if you're noticing a tone shift.
But angry just in pure
my angry was because I was being deprived of iron. So
I'm being provided.
Oh, he's making you be vegan?
No, but he got rid of all this cheese and all.
You got rid of the cheese?
There was no cheese. It didn't meet its expiration date, so it's still in the fridge.
He was like, oh, well, everything that he's been putting on my egg sandwich, which again. He gave me an egg.
Is he putting
the bait and switch
soyonnaise egg or whatever?
Yes,
the shit?
We did have veganese.
Veganese. What the hell is veganese? See, I can feel myself sweating and getting very angry.
The good vegan mayo is called just mayo, for the record.
So not veganese.
It's actually good.
We'll see how long it lasts. When I went on my juice diet, I lasted 2 hours.
4 hours.
I was
and then
on a juice diet that was so bad in terms of giving me constipation. I needed to literally smoke 4 cigarettes in order to be able to poop again after I went on a juice diet for 3 days.
I'm so glad I know that information about you. I can feel myself physically dying. I haven't had cheese in 12 hours, and I can feel myself physically wizening up.
I've always thought, both for moral and health reasons, veganism seems like a good call, and it's always cheese. I'm always aware I cannot give up cheese.
And that's the irony about all this, is Carrie's giving me a lot of crap as a what are you? Octo-Lovo?
I am a lacto-ovo pescatarian, but I don't talk about it like Rob does. Rob's been a vegan for 7 hours.
It's a badge of honor.
Already he ran into somebody and he's like, oh, sorry, I can't. I'm a vegan. Sorry. That's not...
I did not say that.
I bet
but
you did.
He will.
I bet you did. You've already used the word lifestyle since this podcast began. Which I feel is, as you know... I feel this is a slightly overweening.
Well, let's get into our movie lifestyle with our worth mentioning segment. What is the worth mentioning segment of the movies we've seen since the last episode? Which are the ones we want to talk about? They could be great movies. They could be terrible. We share them either way. Tim, how many movies have you seen since the last time we were together?
I haven't counted, but I've seen a decent number. Some of them have even not been Amityville films, which has been very exciting.
Excellent.
But the movie I want to talk about came totally by accident. I was not planning on it. I forgot to correctly manage my Netflix DVD queue, which, some of you may remember once upon a time, Netflix sent discs in the mail to you.
I think we still get that, right?
Well, we have one that's just been sitting in our basket for
7 months now,
and we still
something?
pay the monthly.
Yeah, that seems effective.
That means that you are spending $28 per rental on a DVD.
That's good math. That's fast math there, Tim.
Well, if you've got one a month, it's pretty easy to. But no, so I forgot that I had it at the top of my list. I was actually expecting something totally different. But what I got was last fall's horror film, Ouija: Origin of Evil, directed by Mike Flanagan, which is the prequel to just Ouija, which is like the worst movie.
Is it? It's not Ouija. It's Ouija.
Is it? I don't know.
It's a Ouija board.
But it's not spelled that way.
The A is silent.
The A is German, so it should be Ouija.
So it's
the A is silent, and it's just Ouija.
No, but then it's a supplemental E.
The thing, the board, what lets you communicate with dead folk.
I've used that, yeah.
So the original one is just the shittiest thing. It is just so bad. It is such a horrible movie. Prequel movie set in the 60s, really great. Actually, like for what it is, for a PG-13 haunted house sort of movie with a really predictable ending, I dug it. It's kind of creepy. It's got a really great, just everyone in the cast across the board is really good, but especially the child actors who play the haunted little girls. And Mike Flanagan is a name that I think a lot of horror people have sort of come to trust over the last few years. He did Absentia. He did Oculus.
Oh, Oculus.
So that's who I was trying to pull his name up. His name sounded familiar. Carrie and I both enjoyed Oculus.
So
Which one is that again?
That's the Haunted Mirror.
Oh, that was scary.
So he makes good movies, and in the battle between shitty prequel and good scary movie director won out. So I liked it. I mean, it's the wrong time of year for horror movies. I wish I'd done it more close to Halloween, but I recommend it. If you saw the first one and thought it was terrible, don't mind that. And if you don't see the first one, you don't need to, because it's a much better movie and it doesn't really rely on the first one at all.
Carrie, he also did Hush. That was straight to streaming.
I have not seen Hush.
I thought you've seen Hush.
I have not seen Hush.
You reviewed it, I think.
I have certainly not reviewed Hush.
Oh, really?
No, we have it. We have it as a placeholder for ourselves.
Is that what it is?
You and I saw it.
I just made it through the H's and updating the website.
Am I right? He's got it's a husband and wife dynamic. Like his wife acts or something. I remember there's something there with Mike Flanagan.
Hush was really. I liked Hush.
Was solid. So
I need to see Hush.
I'm on board with Mike Flanagan. Tim, I don't think there's ever a bad time for a good horror movie.
Clearly the fact that I'm in week 10 of an Amityville horror marathon right now, I agree with that, but maybe it's because I'm in the middle of week 10 of an Amityville horror marathon. I'm like, no more horror films.
Hopefully that actual movie, the theatrical release of the new one,
Amityville: The Awakening.
Is it there yet?
No. We will never see that movie. We will all be years in our grave, and that movie will come out.
Well, Care, what did you see in the last week? I know I did a little traveling for work, so you're stuck alone.
Yeah, I was stuck alone most of the week, except for that 36-hour work trip that I had. And I saw 4 movies. 3 movies.
Not bad.
I saw E.T.
Ah!
So you know how we talked about that last week? E.T. And then a couple for Friday night pizza movie night with the kids. We're like, let's pull out some E.T. I was a little worried about it because I mentioned before I was traumatized, and it went well over with the kids.
Excellent.
But the other one that I did really want to talk about was I didn't get a chance to talk about Dunkirk last week.
Yeah, let's talk some Dunkirk.
Did you ever see it?
I saw it on 70 millimeter.
What does that mean?
It means prettier.
Oh.
Basically.
I saw it on 25 millimeter.
Is that a
thing?
No.
Oh.
I mean, there is a measurement that is 25 millimeters, but it's not
in cinema. No.
So the Dunkirk release pattern, let's see if we can go through this all. So the best possible way to see Dunkirk was on 70 millimeter IMAX, which is 70 millimeter celluloid film run sideways through an IMAX camera, then run sideways through an IMAX projector, gives you a gigantic picture with just flawless reproduction, like not a speck of grain to be seen. 125 theaters were showing it in 70 millimeter period. I don't know what percentage of those were showing it in IMAX. For us here in Wisconsin, the closest we would be able to come to seeing that is in Indianapolis, Indiana. Although by the end of August, it's going to be showing in Chicago at Navy Pier Theater, is my understanding. But so that was never an option for us. You then have either 70 millimeter regular, which is run vertically through the camera, which means it's still a very crisp, clean picture, but it's like half as big.
Sure.
Or digital IMAX. And I think digital IMAX was an opportunity that more people will get to see than 70 millimeter IMAX. And then below that, you've got 35 millimeter, which is not showing at very many places. Mm-hmm. And then just straight run-of-the-mill digital projection, which I'm guessing is probably how you saw it.
I don't know. I something tells me Carrie might have saw it on 35, possibly. It was an old theater that you went to.
Yeah.
I saw it on digital IMAX, which I was in Denver, Colorado. Not a lot of that here in Madison, I don't believe. Digital IMAX not here, right?
It was, I think, showing in digital, not real IMAX at one of our theaters.
Yeah, so I saw the right way to see it, or one of the many right way to see it.
Mine was a fine way to see it. I saw it with my dad.
Yeah, I saw it with my pops too.
I saw it with my college roommate because my father specifically was not interested in seeing it.
Was your college roommate like a father to you, though?
It's a father figure.
More like a really tedious younger brother.
Oh, okay. Either will work. So so this one's getting huge reviews right now. People are really responding to it.
93% on Rotten Tomatoes.
It is, I would say, the year's first locked Best Picture nominee.
So it's directed and written by Christopher Nolan, who you guys know.
He is the maker of that classic remake of Insomnia.
Also did Drag Me to Hell. No. Gosh, I thought, never mind. Just flip that out. Nope.
Oh, he also did Following. You're probably thinking of Following.
That's what I was thinking of.
I cannot speak to any Batman films made by Christopher Nolan.
I can't either. Can you? So anyway.
No, because Batman was made by Joel Schumacher, so I'm not sure what you're talking about.
These jokes are not hitting with me. They just so you know.
That's part of what's making them funny.
Is that funny for you? That's
a
good.
little bit.
That's good.
You're flush red. You're flush red. We'll pivot
That's
so that
the
Carrie
cheese withdrawals right now. So it's
Let your wife eat damn cheese.
So this. Why don't you tell us about the movie, and then we'll jump in what we liked about it.
Sure. No, it's a true story, which I don't think a lot of Americans or maybe even those outside of the United Kingdom or Great Britain know much about the story of Dunkirk, but apparently the Germans had the Allied soldiers boxed in in a part of France, and
Dunkirk.
Yeah, France. Dunkirk, France, and had nowhere else to go. They were boxing them in. 400,000 troops left without a navy.
Troops or people? 400,000 people, right?
I think it's 400,000 troops. And then there was a larger number of French citizens.
Yeah.
Yowzers. Okay.
So just on the edge of this of Dunkirk, right up against the water, and they're just all waiting in lines, trying to get escorted and freed and rescued outside of this before the Germans come in. In the meantime, they're bombing them. Not looking great for the Allied soldiers, and that's kind of where the movie picks up, and it's broken out into 3 parts. Which, Tim, I'll let you talk a little bit about those if you'd like.
So the movie, as we know, takes place in 3 different time frames. One is the mole, which is in reference to the jetty that they're standing on, because I literally thought for 15 minutes of the movie, wait, is he a mole? Is he a spy? Is he a German? Not even remotely. So the mole is the pier where they're all waiting to get picked up. So it tells a 1-week story set on the beach and at the mole. And it then tells a 1-day-long story at sea, where we see... I'm not quite sure if he's a merchant fisherman or if he's just a pleasure sailor or what, played by Mark Rylance, who goes out from his port in England across the channel to go to Dunkirk, picks up some soldiers, comes back. So that's 1 day's story. And then there's a 1-hour story set in the air, mostly in the cockpit of a plane piloted by Tom Hardy, who is, of course, a Christopher Nolan favorite at this point, who is just there to try and draw fire and provide cover for the various civilian boat captains who are traveling across the channel to pick up soldiers. So we have these three storylines, each of which takes place in a very mathematically precise but also different time frame, and then each of the 3 stories is being cross-cut, so you're seeing minute 5 in the air at the same time you're seeing day 2 on the mole.
Yeah.
And it becomes... I certainly have my theory for how that works. To me, it's cutting more in terms of what feels like. What is the emotional impact of this moment on each person rather than what is the plot event. So I think that's sort of the logic behind it. But I'd be really curious to know, what did you guys think of how the cross-cutting worked, or did the cross-cutting work?
Yeah, I didn't. And I know we're not spoiling this movie. We want everybody to be compelled to go out and see it.
Germans win!
The Germans are terrible. So I won't go into too much, but I will say the only point, as the casual moviegoer, where I would have noticed the cross-cutting of time was with, who's the naked guy? Always naked. What's his name? The guy that always is nude.
Ewan McGregor?
No, that's always nude in movies,
Mark Rylance?
The soldier.
Cillian Murphy?
Yes.
Is he always nude?
Is he always naked?
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever seen him naked in anything.
He is.
Carrie's right on this one.
Movies.
Is zombie movie. 30
28 days later. We do see Cillian Murphy's shapely buttocks.
But that's great. That's how you think of him.
Cillian Murphy. The only point that I noticed the time element was at one point where time had passed. He was already in a certain scene, and then it flipped, and you could tell that it was a scene that cut back in time.
Sure.
And at the time, I thought, are times converging? That was my reaction when I saw him in an older scene. Was I thought there were maybe two storylines that were starting to come together, and that we were going to meet at something.
Is accurate.
Yeah.
And
good.
Yeah, no, that totally happens. I don't think it's a spoiler to say that the three timelines end up, the same event happens at the same time.
I don't think it's clear though to my dad didn't get it.
Okay.
So we left and he didn't get it.
That's where I think what Nolan did with the editing was an experiment. I think that's kind of been talked about a little bit as well too. What he was trying to do was something experimental with editing, and I think he did it. I don't know if it added to the tension or anything.
I'm not sure if it did either. Honestly.
I don't know if it was necessary, or
I think it's worth it for the moment when they all three converge. I don't think it's worth it in any other way. I think that unkinking it would certainly help the Mark Rylance plot have more sort of emotional heft to it.
Mm-hmm.
And overall, I'm curious, Carrie, what did you and your dad think about the movie just overall?
Overall?
Just not he sounds like maybe a little confused by the editing, but overall, movie-wise.
Yeah, I thought I enjoyed it, and I really liked it for the subject matter. I think what it lacked for me was some of the emotional ties to having characters.
Sure.
And so I like a movie like a Save It Private Ryan, like we talked about last week, where I want somebody to, I obviously want all these people to survive, but I want, it's a family or it's a couple of guys or they're in to save somebody and I'm compelled by the characters, and that this didn't have that for me, which lacked something for me.
And very much, I think, by intent. Like the goal, as I understand it, was that the movie was trying to present the experience of being in this place rather than like a story about this place. And so it's doing that in part by giving you these very vaguely fleshed out characters, so they're sort of the channel for us rather than the thing we care about. I think is what he's doing.
You get it, but it's just one of those, you're not left sobbing, probably.
Yeah. And that was my big issue too, is I felt that while the movie was a beautiful piece of art,
so pretty,
extremely immersive.
So
I don't know what your sound quality was like, but mine was
good wherever
I was checking my back, making sure bullets weren't and bombs weren't landing next to me. It was loud. Completely immersive. Certainly perspective from the soldiers. The editing, what happened was for me was it would take me out of moments that the few that were there from a narrative perspective, if you can really even kind of say there's any person that you follow or plot. There's a plot, but there's a plot.
Three plots.
It's just I needed to identify with someone, and again, I can't fault Nolan for it because I know that wasn't his intention. Right. So do I take away points for that? I don't from a piece of art, but from a pure enjoyment perspective, I didn't really enjoy it as much as I do Saving Private Ryan or a movie where I can follow a character. I know that's traditional kind of more traditional filmmaking, and he's trying something different, and I applaud him for that. But I just was left like,
it's the question of, trying something different is of course inherently good, but did it work? And I remain agnostic on that point, and I do want to see it again. I'd love to see it on 70 millimeter IMAX or even just digital IMAX. But I don't know if I think it lands. And the other thing I want to throw out as a possibility, I felt this very strongly. The person I saw the film with more or less agreed with me. the air sequence is very handsomely done.
Yeah.
It's like there's no CGI there. Those are planes. They have cameras in planes. These are old ass 70-year-old planes flying around. It's a wonderful bravura piece of filmmaking. I don't like it. Like, really? I think the movie would be a little better without it, and I can tell that you don't agree. So I'm curious, like how do you guys feel about?
I could have just taken him floating around that plane all day. I think
to Tim's point, visually, I like it. Out of the three kind of segments, the mole for me was the most immersive.
Yeah.
The sea was. There were character elements in both the mole and
let's
the sea.
Let's not go into too much.
Yeah,
let's be careful.
The air for me was, it was just, it didn't do it
for me. It's such a counter actor movie, sort of like they're not being given characters, so they're not being given arcs, so they're not really being given like stuff to do. So it's not a slight on the actors to say that none of them really stood out for me. Rylance did, mostly because he's Mark Rylance and he just can't not be great. So I did kind of think that I responded more emotionally to the sea than to the mole, but
interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I love a guy who's got your back. So the idea that there was this guy.
I liked him as a person. I don't feel like you needed. I feel like you didn't need Tom Hardy for that particular role.
You didn't.
Yeah, but you didn't have Tom Hardy. That's the thing. He's completely, you don't know. I mean, I knew it was him. I could tell by his eyes, but not everybody. I thought I was like, I didn't want to be like, Dad, I know who that is. But I was like, I know who that is. But anyway, he's not him.
I did like Fionn. Is it Fionn Whitehead who we're with primarily through the whole movie?
He's our mole protagonist.
Yeah, and that's the person. If I had some bit of
sweet little kid though,
connective tissue with someone, it was with him, and I really enjoyed his performance. So.
Yeah, so highly recommend it. From my perspective, and I'd like yours too. I highly recommend that if people want to see this, I think people would enjoy it, but also would highly recommend seeing it in theaters.
Seeing it in the big screen, find the biggest theater if you can conceivably see it in digital or 70 IMAX. That's obviously the way to go.
Perfect.
70 millimeter film was really good, but I also want to just throw out one other thing before we put this one to bed. Two other things, because I do think Tom Hardy doesn't need to be there because it's like Tom Hardy. Chris Nolan has this thing with Tom Hardy where he just wants to cover up his face, and okay, that's weird. But he did it with Bane. Now he's done it with the pilot. I don't want to spoil what happens. I will say that the end of the air sequence has this really sort of wonderful, almost poetic quality that is nowhere else in the movie that I do actually like. And to me, it pays off having, like, there's a sort of like a yes moment when we finally see the face that we recognize as being Tom Hardy's face.
You knew it was him too.
Oh yeah, well I knew it was him. Like I walked into the movie knowing that Tom Hardy played the pilot.
See, I just knew from his face.
I agree with you. It's beautiful. And when people see it, it's a separate spoiler alert episode. A lot of that didn't make any sense to me on how things happened. But
I
we'll
concur.
save for those two.
Different episode.
Different episode.
I mean, very beautiful.
Pretty and good sound. So.
And the other thing I just want to ask you guys about, because I have very strong feelings. What did you guys feel about the score, the musical score?
I thought it was so pretty.
You thought it was pretty?
Yeah, I thought it was captivating. Right, so I thought it was captivating. It had my emotions on edge because I thought it rose and fell with the peaks and valleys of the movie for me.
That's funny. I found it to be just static.
I very much agree with Rob on this
really?
one.
Really?
It's the same ticking, and it worked for like the first 20 minutes, 30 minutes, sure. And then it just, like, there was no ebb and flow.
To me, it very much flattens the movie.
Well, I'm obviously the sound aficionado.
You are clearly the most subtle, sophisticated viewer among us. I feel so unnatural to be agreeing with Rob against Carrie. I don't even know what to do in this moment.
I know. I just want to go grab some Swiss. But yeah, I don't know. I thought that the sound and the actual quality of the color and all that stuff was just really well together.
It's visually amazing. Yeah. Shot by Hoyt van Hoytema. Just gorgeous piece of cinematography.
Last thing too I want to know too before we go is as far as Christopher Nolan movies, top, middle, bottom, where do you put this, Care? As far as looking at his filmography.
Give me some other ones.
Oh, Inception, Insomnia, Batman Begins, Dark Knight Rises.
This is like top 75 percentile.
So you like this?
I really like this movie.
Like this movie.
I thought it was good.
I haven't worked out quite how I'd put it into my ranking yet, but I feel in the top third, but potentially like towards the bottom of the top third.
Man, I feel bad. I feel like this is mid to bottom third for me.
Really?
Just because I just needed, I needed the characters. Like,
to
I need
me,
to care.
it's like easily better than Dark Knight Rises or Interstellar, which were his last two films.
Rob loved Interstellar.
I did like Interstellar. I know people give it crap for the
I need to see
writing.
it again. It's too goddamn long.
Yeah, I don't
it has
think
a
you
really
need to see it
terrible
again.
ending.
That's funny you mentioned that too, as this is one of his shortest movies by far.
It is his second shortest movie ever, and his shortest movie was like 62 minutes long,
So when you were saying about the sound too, and this is the last thing, is that they brought in 30 of the veterans from the Dunkirk that had survived, and they were in their mid-90s, and I guess they brought them in for the premiere screening in London.
Yep.
And when they did, I guess they were like, "Yeah, I did a really good actually capturing the event, really good." But the sound was like much louder than the actual what actually happened, and I guess he got like a laugh out of that or whatever.
It's a movie.
It's a movie.
It is a movie.
But anyway,
so I'm curious. Star ratings, you guys.
I think it's probably a 3.5 star movie.
That's actually where I was falling to.
Right.
Tim?
Cool. I went with 4 stars.
Yeah, it's up there.
And Tim, I know you have a more thoughtful review as well, too, on our website. So remember, you can find more details about all the movies we've watched at our website, alternating.com. That's alternating.com. Before we head to our break, you might be wondering about ways to support the show. Direct from our website, you can head to our Patreon page, which provides you access to a ton of perks. You may want to make us watch a movie, have Tim write a review, pick your own episode topic. You can do it all from our Patreon page. Also, I want to thank all of our listeners who support the show and make their Amazon purchases through our site. Doing it is easy. Just go to our website, alternating.com. Click on the Amazon banner and seamlessly go about your purchases. All proceeds go to making our show better. Since our last episode, here were the things that were purchased. Had some tools and hardware purchased.
Ooh, what are they, Rob?
A multi-purpose fire extinguisher 2-pack. I'm not really sure.
What are the other purposes to which a fire extinguisher may be put?
Is it like a bowling pin where there's I feel like you can hit someone with it.
Totally.
You can place, maybe it's like a lampshade. Perhaps?
Maybe.
I'm not sure.
No.
But apparently this is the Swiss Army of fire extinguishers.
All right.
I appreciate the purchase. A sports and outdoor item, a waist trimmer adjustable sauna belt to shed the excess water.
Waist trimmer?
Yeah, just you put
like
it
a
on.
hair thing?
No. Waist trimmer as in getting skinnier.
Oh, like
to trim your
like a
waist
wrap.
size.
It's a wrap, and I think it absorbs the moisture. If you got a little bit of water buildup there, it kind of just gets it right up there.
Yeah.
We had a Targus chill hub and chill mat. Computers get hot, ladies and gentlemen.
Yep.
Computers get hot. You gotta cool them off.
You gotta get a fan.
And we had a Amazon cell phone, Amazon Basics cable, 3.5 millimeters, male to male. Someone connecting some stereo equipment.
Don't make a joke, Tim. Don't make a joke.
Please.
Just stay quiet.
All right.
A German Shepherd mom sticker purchase. So this is a little thing you stick on the car if you have a dog or a kid. You put the little stickers on there to let people know. We did that for a while. We had the stick figure family.
Don't put "we" in there.
All right, I did it, and I bought it off Amazon as well.
Right.
We also had Amazon Instant Video, The Woman in the Window.
No.
Nothing.
No, it's not ringing. There's does it give a year that this movie came out?
No, I don't have a year.
I think there's like a 40s film called The Woman in the Window.
Interesting. I love the varying taste that we have on our Amazon purchases. And that's it. Thanks, guys. Appreciate all your purchases. When we get back, our spoiler alert for Ghost in the Shell.
Welcome back to Alternate Ending. Tonight we're doing a spoiler alert episode. Recently released on home video and streaming, the 2017 remake of Ghost in the Shell, film directed by Rupert Sanders. So we're going to be talking about that movie, but before we get to that, we're going to take a look at the original version of Ghost in the Shell, a 1995 anime classic directed by Mamoru Oshii. So I've seen this movie several times. I love it. It's one of my favorite anime films. For both of you, Rob and Carrie, I know that your continuing efforts to find anything that's not actively off-putting in anime has been
It's been difficult.
one of the projects of this podcast. So I'm curious, did you find anything you did not hate about Ghost in the Shell 1995?
I mean, the ending was good. There's a little Tim joke for you there.
That's a good joke.
That wasn't it? Never gets old, does it? Yeah, you go first, Rob.
Oh, I go first? Actually, this, I will say, of the anime that I've seen, this is my favorite anime.
I genuinely thought that would be the case.
It's absolutely, it's right in it asks the philosophical questions, but not like in the way that when we saw Paprika it wasn't as fantastical. This was more pure
Crime.
Pure
You like
sci-fi.
It's a very
drama.
realistic film.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's
about cyborgs and consciousness.
Consciousness. And I think what got me was, even though it preceded The Matrix, I got a lot of Matrix from it, so then it helped tie back to that.
I'm fairly confident that the Wachowskis have actually spoken about it as one of the things that they were aware of.
Absolutely. I mean, it certainly comes across. I think the issue for me, and we'll get into highlights and lowlights of this as well too, but I think I'm a prisoner of the fact of having seen The Matrix first.
That's
and
legitimate.
it's tough to go back with that philosophy set that has been put in place. I loved... If I was seeing this with fresh eyes in 1995 and starting to explore philosophy a little bit, I would have been captivated. I think I still was, very much so. I think the action sequences are stellar.
Oh, they're so good.
A lot of the set pieces from an animation perspective. Carrie, you had said the city when we were. Is that like a real city in the backdrop and they just animated over it?
I know. I was actually going to call that out. I was like, maybe this is like real footage, and then they just plugged in some animated people.
And Rob's like, exceedingly good drawings.
Really good. A couple of those city alleyways where they had the signage and stuff like that. It looked so real, so real.
I will say, Tim, you're going to be disappointed in us. You specifically said to not watch the English dubbed version and stick with the
I said
subtitles.
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't. You didn't say. Yeah, you didn't.
You said if I were you, Rob, I would never watch.
If I was some cool guy who ate meat, I would watch the Japanese dub. If I was some lame vegan, I would
do what you did.
So we went the vegan route.
Yeah, as you do.
Yeah, I wasn't prepared to have to read. Reading was just going to be challenging.
Hey, what are you talking about reading?
If we watch the Japanese,
I mean, now that you're eating so many damn carrots, your eyesight should be better.
It should be better. I should be able to focus more on it. No, we did, and it wasn't. It was fine. I liked it. I think it's one of the ones where I actually liked. I would like more of this on my plate. I'm down for this type of anime.
There's a lot of anime that is clearly in this sort of like philosophical sci-fi branch. So that can be arranged. I promise.
Yeah, these movies for me are uniquely unappealing because you're joining the forces of like espionage, which I already hate. Like I hate Mission Impossible movies and I hate all those. Then like, I know. You're disliking me a little bit. I can tell.
But the Mission Impossible movies are good.
Yeah. But like, Mission Impossible is a bad example. Like, what's a good one, Rob, where I wouldn't like it? Like where it's espionage-y.
I think you've specifically told me in the past you just don't like espionage movies.
I guess that's what it is. I don't like government conspiracy movies. Like, I don't know. I don't like those. So that was this
Was
movie.
it a tough plot to follow with all of the things going on? I'll be honest. It moved at a very fast pace.
It does.
As far as explaining things and not explaining things. And you just have to know Series 6 and Series 9 or... Is that what they're called?
Niner? Did I catch a niner
Was
in
there
there?
series? It was a series,
yeah,
right?
Series.
Okay, yeah. You had to just follow along and know who the good guys are and who the bad guys are. It wasn't.
I thought the guy with the little glasses was a bad guy for a long time. I'm going to actually back up for a brief second and tell the audience, if you haven't listened to this, what the plot is. So.
Oh yeah.
That might be helpful.
It
might not be helpful. It might not be helpful, especially if I say it. But this movie takes place in 2029, so it's not that far from now. And, well, I guess it was in 95. It was a little further away. But anyway.
Way ahead of its time.
Way ahead of its time.
We'll get into it.
So these people live in a time where there's, and you correct me if I'm wrong on any of this, we live in a time where there's hybrid people who, they're everywhere. And they're made of like robotic bodies, but they have human brains. So some of them do.
Well, that's the advance.
Okay.
Like that's the thing that's cool.
So people have made small modifications?
Like cybernetic body parts.
Cybernetic body parts, right.
The idea of a whole human consciousness or rather a whole human robot body. God damn it. A whole robot body hosting a human consciousness is not like unprecedented.
Or a ghost.
But it's like a ghost.
Thanks, Tim.
That's the thing that's sort of the game-changing element when we arrive in 2029.
So does everybody have a brain? I don't think so. I don't know. Some people have brains. Some people have...
Everybody has a
Everyone
brain.
has a brain.
She, in this case, the cyborg policewoman who's partnered to hunt this mysterious hacker called the Puppet Master.
Sure.
She is literally just... And this is where I'm confused now. Is she just a human brain in a
body?
That is my understanding.
Okay.
That's my understanding too.
Much more clear in the remake,
which to be fair is catering to idiot Americans.
Yes, and so I appreciate that.
It was clear to me in the original that was the case. Just so you know.
I wasn't sure if what parts of her were
just the
human, or
brains.
if anything, if she was just AI or something.
You're wondering about the other parts, aren't you?
You're wondering about the
I was very
detailed
excited.
robot nipples.
I was very excited to see animated nudity.
If you want to see animated nudity, Japanese animation will definitely set you up with that as well.
But for pure purposes of just camouflage, and I get that. I mean, I get naked to blend in with my surroundings all the time.
Obviously.
Especially the forest.
He is in fact naked right now. You cannot see this on the podcast.
And neither can you because I'm blending.
Blending it. I can't see it. Oh, gross. So anyway, so let me go back. Now I'm nervous. The story focuses around Major, a gal named Major, Motoko Kasunagi, who is a police officer, and then she goes out and deals with cybercrime. So she's going out, she's uber strong, she's uber awesome. She goes out to fight cybercrime. So then, like Rob said, there's the puppet master who's going out to steal cyber. He's a brain hacker.
Yep.
And he goes out and steals brain thoughts, and then he tries to do bad things with the information that he collects. And she's out to stop him, right?
That's it.
The whole movie in a nutshell.
That's not the whole movie, but
in a ghost
that
shell.
gets us to where we need to be.
Yeah. I know. I was waiting. Yeah, I did do that. So there's the story.
It opens with this amazing sequence where she's just jumping off of I mean, that to me was it. That's what lured me in and was like, oh, I'm in. I'm in for this. Where is this taking me?
It has some just tremendously arresting imagery. Which I know we don't want to get too much into the remake yet, but I think one of the things that both flattered me and pissed me off about the remake was how much it just like took the imagery without thinking about what the imagery signified. And in the original animated version, like it is this really just involving way to pull us into the otherness of this future society where the rules are different, the people are different, but in this way that's very like easily accessible because of how dramatic it is and how like cinematically just awesome it is. But I didn't mean to step on what you were gonna.
No. I'm interested in the philosophy of this one because I feel like even though the remake you mentioned visually in a flattering, I actually think the remake does a very nice job of replicating shots and paying homage to the original. Maybe not for the right reasons, but it cost the remake, the live action, $110 million. They put a lot of that into the visuals. And there were some nice scenes where I was like, oh yeah, having seen it back to back, I was like, oh yeah, that's what I just saw. But boy, does it look pretty shiny.
You know what? In some of the ways, the sound was exactly the same. It felt like they replicated footsteps because do you remember that guy running down the water in the original? And I remember like there was this really rapid clicking sound of him running. And then I remember watching the remake, and I thought that was that same triggered clicking now. Like it was the same. So, and I don't know if that was like, I'm sure that was intentional.
I'm sure. Like the whole point of remaking Ghost in the Shell is that it's a huge fanboy property. So you're going to get all these people who love in theory, it didn't pan out that way.
No, 40 million.
You're going to get the people who love 40 million. Maybe that is all the Americans who love the cartoon. I don't know. You're going to get those people to see it, and they're going to want to see this recreation of the things they love in somewhat neurotic detail in a few cases. But yeah, no, I'm sure it was intentional. Like I have no doubt that it was intentional.
The issues I had with the original was it was just a little bit too hard to follow because it was moving so fast. And the philosophy, it worked for me. I thought, and it's interesting because I feel like both movies have different philosophies.
They have like almost exactly polar opposite philosophies, which is baffling to me.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I'm curious what your thoughts are on this. So what I gathered from it was that Major is what she's dealing with is very different than what the Major in the remake is dealing with. In the original, it's about we're at this point, 1995, and this is why the movie to me was very forward looking. Is sure the internet was around. But it's like we're all interconnected, and what are the positives and certainly the negatives about being so interconnected and finding your purpose in that.
To me, the original film is saying we need to redefine what being human is because we know we're humans. Like we're going to take that as read. But now what does it mean to be a human when your body is half cybernetic or when you're hooked up to the internet or what have you? And the remake is much more of a generic, like, you mean I'm a clone sort of thing. It's like, well, fuck that. Like,
right.
It's a much more like sort of alarmist. Like, that's the thing. The original is not alarmist. It's very curious. I don't think it likes the universe it's depicting, but it's interested to see what we make of it. The remake is totally like, oh, computers are bad,
and it's a philosophical question that I've read as just kind of a thing that people ask oftentimes is, so you have a vintage car, for example, and you know the tires go out on you, so you replace the tires, the engine, I don't know anything about cars. This was a bad analogy.
You replace the big bird gun. You replace the stick in the engine.
You replace the stick shift, the chairs, the interior. At what point is it no longer the original car? And that's what the movie, the original Ghost in the Shell movie, was trying to like. Sure. At what point do we then switch into? Well, now I'm no longer the thing I want.
That's what she's questioning. Yeah.
And the sequel does not do that at all.
The sequel does not do that at all.
No. And I thought that was probably the most important takeaway from the original. Like, was the contemplative nature of, like, yeah, you're left with that when you leave the movie. Like, yeah, what defines a soul? What makes up a soul? Like,
exactly.
Is it your brain? Is it your heart? Is it your body? Like, what is it? And I mean, they don't, like you said, they don't have that in the second one.
I think part of what's going on there is that, you know, not to make culturally like deterministic statements, the Japanese are more. I feel like to just look at Japanese pop culture, their relationship to high tech is not as. What's the word I'm looking for? Americans, I think, have a very neurotic relationship with our technology because at the same time we all use it. We all rely extensively on these, you know, in some ways brain deadening toys to get through life. And then we are sort of freaked out about that and become very much in our art, like things like The Matrix, things like The Terminator. We have this attitude of like, oh, all of these electronic doodads we've allowed into our lives are poisoning us, basically. And that doesn't happen as much in Japanese pop culture. They're much more sort of open to the possibility that these things are changing us, but the change is interesting, not good, not bad. So I think there's a cultural thing going on there where the original is approaching this from a Japanese perspective of like, so this is how things are. We know that we're not going to put the genie back in the bottle in terms of technology, so let's figure out how we live with that. And of course, the American film is just a very run-of-the-mill, robots are bad because they're fake, and, you know.
So do you think that the original was out to prove the point that her consciousness, like that she didn't need her body to have her soul?
I think it does not want to. I don't think it's being didactic. I do think it thinks that. I think that it comes to the conclusion that yes, she is still the same. I don't think that it is telling us we have to agree.
So it's like it wants you to choose.
It wants us to think about it. It's telling us what it thinks. It's not being disingenuous about that, but it wants us to think.
The part this is just a plot point that I want to make sure I'm on the same page with is the ending of the original. If it's okay to go,
it's spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
22-year-old movie.
The ending. The puppet master has inhabited this female body, or is it it's
a body.
It's a shell.
It's a shell as well too. And do they end up mating?
They don't.
The intent was to mate in a code way.
I think mating is maybe a word that has the wrong connotations. They are combining
the best of their codes or bridging their codes together.
They are female.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and they're successful in that, and she then is that. That's what I get.
That's the ... at the end of the story.
That's
like,
where I just wanted to make
now?
sure I was on the same page and then she Major goes into the only body that they could find was a young girl.
Yeah,
and we think that now she is this amalgamation of the puppet master plus her original self.
And then it ends.
Okay, good. I just wanted to make sure I was on the same page there. I will say the ending for the original, a little bit anticlimactic, not that part, but the what it was building to the final fight sequence on the spider robot or whatever.
You mean where she gets all big and rips her arms off?
Yeah. That action sequence was it was okay. Like it just kind of ended, and then they went and the bodies were just laying there and everything. Like that part was a little bit I liked the philosophical side, but it just from an action perspective it kind of.
And I mean, again, I think that's just a cultural thing. Like the movie, a lot of Japanese animation that I've seen does kind of have that weird fizzling out quality. And I do think it's because they want us to think about the philosophy. Like that is the climax, is not will she be able to punch the villain apart?
Right.
It's like, well, what's going to happen now with their consciousness?
I wanted a big battle scene.
I get that.
And that's kind of what it was missing for me a little bit if I was looking for more of an entertainment quality. But again, that's more of the stupid American in me. You know?
I don't want to say that all Americans are stupid, just you.
Just me. Just me. What else about the original? You guys want to jump into the newer one a little bit?
I mean, like I could talk about the original forever and always, but we do at some point. A couple things I do want to mention. We've already talked, of course, about the backgrounds, which are so good. It's such, oh my God. So my Japanese animation is not maybe the best in the world for character animation. It's a little stiff. Usually the details are not always necessarily there. And I do think this movie has some really good character animation. The backgrounds.
Yeah.
Like that's what you go to.
Awesome.
That's what you go to anime for. You go for the amazing backgrounds, and they are just beyond good in Ghost in the Shell. The other thing I adore, and we talked about this a little bit before we started recording, I adore the score for Ghost in the Shell.
It's pretty.
Yeah.
It's just this really...
It's haunting. It's stuck with us for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's got this sort of like chanting monks quality to it almost. That I think at least gets me sort of really revved up for I'm now going to watch a story about the nature of the soul. So to me, that's what a good score does. It's just like sort of cue me into where my head needs to be.
So I'm going to put you guys on the spot here.
Yes.
This movie cost 600 million yen. What does that translate to in US dollars?
$30.
I have no idea. A deal. We'll call it a deal for the quality that it is. Certainly a Far Cry less than 110 million, or excuse me, 110 million.
It's certainly cheaper. What did you say? 600 million?
600 million yen.
Gotcha.
Tim's
And
got his
there was an
trusty
interesting
currency
comment
calculator.
from somebody that wrote in on the website, David Greenwood, and he wrote in to say that he knows a lot of people that try to get their friends to like anime by showing them the classics and a movie like this. And it was interesting because he said, usually that backfires. You say like, oh, here, give you a classic movie if you're not into anime. And he said what he finds works better is trying to...
As of 2017 exchange rates, about $5.5 million.
Oh, so it's...
what
how
a
does it do
steal.
that cheap?
Steal. For an animated?
Japanese animation's dirt cheap.
Wow.
That so cheap. I'm going to make all my Japanese animation.
And I want to get back to what you're saying too, Carrie, because I find myself doing this in not only in movies, but in other things when I like a band or something.
Yeah.
I really want to get you to like this band too. So I'm curious
So
what
his
David's
recommendation was, he said he finds it better to try and find like a story that people like and then find a story that actually tailors to like what's in the anime, and then it won't matter what the anime is.
And that's why this worked for me a little bit more than maybe
I kind of hope for. You see, for me, that approach died when you guys didn't like Totoro. Because I feel like you would both like that story.
You know what? I need to rewatch it. I got a little weirded out by the bath scene. I don't know. There were weird things in there. Do you have anything, though, in like a Ryan Gosling-esque thing, like a rom-com?
Well, I mean, certainly
like
there is an
maybe?
extensively, yes.
I don't know. Any
there is a
like deadpan humor?
Well, Japanese humor is not deadpan.
No. Okay, so I'll get rid of that. Just the Ryan Gosling thing.
There is an extensive genre of Japanese animation that is, it's called Magical Boyfriend.
Okay. And
it's basically about like the slightly awkward, goofy girl who we identify with has a magical boyfriend.
Okay.
The end. And it's like 26 episodes. These are like TV series.
Oh, okay.
Most Japanese animation is in the form of usually 13 or 26 episode TV series.
I'm gonna look into that. Say it again. Bad Boyfriend.
Magical Boyfriend.
Magical Boyfriend.
And it's like it's a genre.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, also Magical Girlfriend, which is much more about like panty shots and coy sexuality. Magical Boyfriend is rather closer to what an American romantic comedy would be.
All right, I'm going to do that and see what happens to see if this technique works. So
and in terms of like actual movies that do that, I most Japanese animated features I think do tend to slot more into the fantasy, sci-fi, maybe horror modes than sort of there are like domestic. You know what a movie that I think you might actually like, Carrie, is called Only Yesterday. It's a Studio Ghibli film.
Uh-huh.
And it's about this woman who returns to... We're getting off track, but it's a good movie. She returns to her childhood home in her, I believe, early 30s. And it's her sort of remembering what her childhood was like while also realizing she's a grown-up now and has to have like grown-up concerns. You can very easily imagine the live action American remake having Reese Witherspoon.
Oh, okay. I mean, I would like it if it was Rachel Geller, but either way, I'll take it. I'm going to watch both of those and see what happens. So what about the second one?
So yeah, we're on to the 2017 version, cast including Scarlett Johansson, which that caused some ire.
That did
in the fanboy realm.
It is weird, as I mentioned. It's such a very specifically Japanese story, and having a white lead actress is weird.
It's bad timing too. From
she had that brown hair.
She did. Black raven hair. And this, it's just with all of the eyes on this the whitewashing kind of buzzword that's going on. You don't from a timing perspective don't really have a sensitivity.
It's a bad time, and it's just. Does it make the movie worse? I don't know, because the movie's already bad and would continue to be bad, I think, with a Japanese actress. It's certainly... They call attention to how bad it is at the ending in a really bizarre way, and it's I almost could have tolerated it if they hadn't gone where they go at the ending.
Do you feel like they had guilt for it? Because I feel like a lot of the plot changes that they made were specifically to address... the fact that it's now a white lead.
I think that they wanted to justify it, and they did so much worse than if they'd just done it. Honestly, I think if they just done it, it would have been okay, well, that was a stupid decision.
What was your first?
They keep reminding us.
Yeah. What was your first knowledge of this movie? Did you read? Were you checking kind of the social media waves that this was happening?
They've been trying to get a live action Ghost in the Shell off the ground for 15 years.
I had no idea this movie was going to take place. I was familiar with the property of Ghost in the Shell. My first exposure to knowing that the movie was going to be made into a live action was actually the Super Bowl spot, which we were watching the Super Bowl, and all of a sudden I could have sworn I saw Scarlett Johansson naked.
She's not naked. She's wearing a little suit.
I didn't know that at the time.
She's not wearing a suit. Her body is made out of polystyrene.
Did they do that on purpose though? Because I was expecting a nudie Scarlett Johansson.
Oh, they're clearly hey, Scarlett Johansson is kind of nude.
And that's what I gathered from the Super Bowl spot. I remember turning to, it was either you or maybe it was your mom, and we were watching, and I was like...
I can imagine you telling your mother-in-law that you just saw a naked lady.
Scarlett Johansson just naked? I feel like this is inappropriate for a kind of run-of-the-mill age Super Bowl viewing that's happening right now. But they paid big money for a spot trying to promote this movie, and I was actually kind of interested, not just because of the potential for Scarlett Johansson being naked, but it looked like a Matrix-y... Blade Runner.
Oh, sure. They clearly had Blade Runner on their minds when they made this movie.
Yeah, certainly did. So I was curious if you were excited at all or you were nervous to see it.
I was curious.
You were curious.
I was curious. I will not say that I was excited, but I was definitely curious.
The Blade Runner sequence is certainly in the visuals from the cityscape perspective. That's the first thing that jumps to mind. I know, Carrie, you haven't seen Blade Runner yet.
No,
I'm a little worried by your feelings of Ghost in the Shell and how you might take Blade Runner, but certainly there's a lot of just stealing from Blade Runner.
We get used to talking about how Blade Runner has influenced sci-fi production design, but boy, those street view scenes in Ghost in the Shell are an unusually pure example of it. They're not.
That was the main thing I liked was the visuals.
Good. Then you'll be set for Blade Runner because it is open thievery.
Well, it was just really, yeah. But it was just so neat to look at.
But what was missing was the heart of the production design. It looked the part, but it was missing its essence.
It feels like a set.
It's lifeless.
It looks like a production designed environment. It does not look like a place where people live. That's what it's missing from Blade Runner. That's what it's missing from the original animated Ghost in the Shell.
Yeah. I will say the opening sequence, much like the original, I was kind of half excited. The geisha girls, that was pretty phenomenal.
That was really good. The set pieces are good. Anytime that it's recreating anime imagery, whether it's Ghost in the Shell imagery specifically, or just sort of the greater corpus of sci-fi anime imagery, I'm on board with it. It's it's cool to see that in live action. But anytime it's trying to do something with the plot, it just doesn't. But it looks good.
It doesn't. And
it looks like the movie I wanted it to.
It looks the part. It just lacks the soul, which is funny that we're talking about ghost. It's lacking a ghost element.
I think for me, the one time that it did in fact come alive, anytime Michael Pitt was on screen.
Yeah,
he had the sort of broken self-aware, electrified quality that made me feel something was going on there.
I didn't mind the Pilu
Aspect.
Yeah, his character, I liked him.
Batou?
Yeah. I liked everybody. You know who was Scarlett?
Scarlett Johansson
just seemed, and it's funny because she's played
one note.
She's played Lucy.
She played Lucy.
She's played an action heroine in The Witch. She's played Under the Skin. She played an alien being.
She did. Well, that's the thing. She's basically playing Ghost in the Shell the same way she played Under the Skin. And in Under the Skin, we're looking at this crazily austere art film where it makes sense. In Ghost in the Shell, it just feels like she's disconnected.
Because she's still human. So, like, where's the human part? And she's just playing a robot.
Totally.
And made me just kind of left me cold.
That's the thing. Like, I would be a lot more willing to, like, sort of gloss over the whitewashing thing if the results had paid off, and they don't.
Yeah,
like they just don't. She's very bad. She makes the movie worse.
What did you think about Scarlett Johansson, Carrie?
I didn't mind her. I wish she was Asian, but other than that, I didn't mind her. Like, that was her only problem, was not being Asian for me. I thought she had like some awesome action sequences.
The action sequences are very good.
Yeah. I don't know. And I thought she was supposed to be one note. Like, I got her to, like, she's a robot. She's supposed to be kind of like confused about her.
And that's the thing. I didn't get the confusion. I just got the sort of like blunt force of it.
And I'm sorry I'm neglecting the audience member's name, but an audience member basically said that this is almost like a RoboCop movie at this point. Like, that's what it is. And that's, I agree, is it felt a little bit more like a RoboCop reboot than a Ghost in the Shell reboot.
It is a better RoboCop reboot than the RoboCop reboot.
Fair enough. That's
Was the Michael Pitt character in the first one?
He is not in the first one. He's kind of the puppet master. I'm not familiar with the Ghost in the Shell media franchise is huge. There's comic books, several movies, a TV series. I believe his character is from the TV series that I have not seen.
Okay. Because I didn't remember
And
him.
that's where you start, it's a good segue because you start seeing the divergence between the plots of the original and then this live action. And I thought we could touch on those just for a little bit. In the original, obviously, she is Japanese. And this one, they made adjustments, I think, to try to justify
the
and
like I said, just really calling attention to it is all they did.
Right.
So it's very dumb.
So she has a more Anglo name, not Major, but she has
it's something Irish, something Killian.
Yeah, Mira Killian or something. And then you come to find later that she was named Makamoto or something more Japanese. Yeah. Wow. Well done. Oh yeah, because that's her. That's her original name.
The other movie. Yeah.
So they start making these kind of callings to the fact that she originally was Japanese, but then she was now inhabiting a white body.
I didn't get that.
That is the most goddamn tone-deaf, idiotic plot twist, too.
I did not get that.
You do that for the solitary reason of knowing that people are mad at you, but not knowing why.
Oh, yeah.
There were other elements, too, and we talked a little bit about it in the original from a philosophical perspective of the original being more about, what does it mean to be human? And this one was, I didn't quite get what it was trying to say. I don't know. From a philosophical, if it was attempting to answer any questions, really.
By the time the last half hour rolled around, I was perhaps watching it in the background a little bit.
Yeah,
a little bit.
I don't blame you. I was a little bored.
Did you review this movie?
I will be reviewing this movie.
Oh, you will be. Okay,
I'm going to give this podcast some time to breathe. You will get to hear my full thought or read my full thoughts on the movie Wednesday.
Oh,
good. Oh, nice. No, and for something that where it's only thing working for it are the visuals, you would hope that maybe like that would be enough, or that the action would be enough to carry it forward because it's missing everything else. Like the action wasn't even that great.
The best action is just recreating action set pieces from the animated film, which raises the question, why am I not just watching the animated film? Because it's all CGI, so it's all fucking animated anyway.
Yeah.
So
it's funny you say that, because I think that's why I liked the second one, was because we had literally like 5 minutes before just watched the animated one.
Sure.
So I was actually enjoying the point of overlaying the two. So I had just seen it, so it was so fresh that I could be like, oh, there's the garbage truck. Like, that's this guy.
That's probably,
like, that was more
my
fun.
thing is, I've seen the original enough times. I have a strong enough connection to the first one that it's like, well, why are you doing this to the thing I love?
Yeah, I actually think I liked the second one better than you, based on the way that you both are talking about it. Yeah, I didn't totally dislike it.
No, I didn't dislike it. Like, it has some redeeming qualities, certainly. It was a little boring. It was a little bit boring, and I blame a little bit on Scarlett Johansson, and then the other part I blame on, part of it could be the direction that she was given.
I mean, Rupert Sanders is not a director we give a shit about. His other film that I can immediately name is Snow White and the Huntsman.
Not a good one.
A dull-ass movie.
Yeah.
Did you guys like Juliette Binoche?
I mean, I like Juliette Binoche. Yeah.
She was super cute.
Yeah.
I've never
So
once seen her in
sweet
anything where I did not like her, even when the script was flagrantly failing her.
Yeah, there's something about she has a quality that I thought, I wonder if she'll just give me a hug, you know? She just seems like that kind of lady.
She's very motherly, and she was playing kind of a motherly role too, Major, to Scarlett Johansson's character. Yeah, it was more accessible, and I know it is easier to understand. They took the beats to explain things a little bit, maybe even too much to a point.
And I don't mind that it explains things better. I mean, I think I've seen the original enough that I get it more than I used to, but like it is an impenetrable thing, so it's good to sort of break things apart. For me, it's just that they changed the message so much that it's just not worth getting it to me anymore. It's a very generic theme.
Just trying to find herself.
Yep.
And that's it. She's kind of doesn't belong in either world.
Like I've seen that story.
Yeah.
So if we were to recommend then to listeners where to gear themselves, I'm guessing you guys are going to say go out and see the anime film?
I mean, I'd say definitely see the anime film if you like sci-fi or animation writ large. The remake is very lovely. And as someone who has many times in my life recommended a movie that had nothing going for it but production design, I can't say skip it, but certainly DVD / Blu-ray is. Yeah. I did not feel like I lost anything really.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get just go watch The Matrix. Like you'll get the best of both worlds. I feel like it doesn't address the exact philosophy that the Japanese version intended to go out to try to discuss, but certainly it has the visual elements and it has the nice philosophy wrapped up in it. I'll just go watch The Matrix. I lean more towards the original, certainly version.
This was Tim's call, so thanks for the recommendations there.
Thanks
again.
Sometimes ideas seem like a good
Excellent.
idea, and then you're halfway through the DVD.
I think I'm going to do the next episode.
You're watching the live action one, and your only thought is, we made a real bad choice. I wish we were doing like a top
can't
five.
Watch all good movies.
Top five movies with bunnies in them or something.
Next episode.
So I'm just curious. I want to know star ratings for each of these. First, the animated one.
Animated 2.5.
I'd give it 3.
I'm at 4.5 for the animated one.
2. I lied actually. 2.
It's okay. Be true to yourself.
If I had more dairy today, I would have given it a 2.5. But it's going to be 2.
I get that.
And then for the remake, 2.5.
On the
3. 2. No, at 2.5. 2.5.
I'm at a 2 on the remake.
Are you?
You're going to hold us to these. You're going to post these now. I know you asked me
on Wednesday.
I know. I'm going to text you later.
We're really behind on adding our star rating. So Tim, that's why Tim really asks us.
I want to commit them to it in a public forum.
All right, 2.5. 2 for the anime. 2.5 for the Atomic Blonde or whatever. What was this called?
You almost said Atomic Blonde.
Atomic Blonde is a great movie. Let us not even begin besmirching its good idea.
What's the name of this movie again?
Ghost in the Shell.
Ghost in the Shell.
Well, every week
that says it all.
Every week we also ask our audience to share their picks and thoughts for a chance to win a free Amazon movie rental. Our lucky winner this week, Julian DeBerry, also a Patreon, so it's nice to be able to give back to Julian. Julian's thoughts were, this is going to be the final nail in the coffin for Rob's ambivalence towards anime.
Turns out that it maybe did not
be
that thing.
It actually worked out, so I'm excited to give anime yet another shot. Julian, shoot us an email at contact@alternating.com for details on how to claim your free movie rental. If you want to win a free movie like Julian, be on the lookout for a spoiler alert or top 5 movie post on Facebook and Twitter to share your favorite picks. In closing, just want to thank everybody for listening. Go out to our social media, check out our Facebook page, like it. Twitter, we're posting things there all the time. Alternating.com for all of our reviews, blogs, podcasts, and more. Subscribe to our podcast on iTunes or Google, and tune in for our next show. We're just in time for, I believe it's the Nut Job 2.
The Nut Job 2, Nutty by Nature.
That we're all excited about.
Very exciting movie.
We're looking at our top 5 animated sequels.
Madagascar 2 for life.
Catch you then.